Hi, welcome to another episode of 2 Minutes on Tuesday. I'm Sam Miller of RE/MAX Stars Realty, and on this episode I've got something for buyers and sellers. And it doesn't matter if you're a first-time buyer or you've bought and sold 15 houses. I think you'll pick up a few things that you may not know about how the closing procedures are different today than they were, say, 5 years ago. One of the biggest things is it used to be that if you bought a home 5 years ago or longer, you could just go to the bank the morning of the closing, get a cashier's check made, and you drive from the bank to the title company, pop into the title company, sign all your papers, and hand over the cashier's check, and your deal was done. No problem. And that worked for years. But due to the amount of fraud and people creating fake cashier certified checks where they'd print them themselves or have somebody make a fake check where there was no money behind it, because of that fraud, they kind of ruined it for a lot of people. So now there are rules in place that a lot of these transactions, instead of getting a cashier's check, you have to wire the funds from your account. So from your checking account, savings account, you'll have the monies you need wired from that account into the title company's account. That way they know the money's good. And the reason that's important is, of course, the title company has to disperse the money, and they've got to give the seller the net proceeds and pay the loan off. They've got to make sure there's valid funds available. So why this is important to a first-time buyer, they may not need to have wire funds depending on how much they need, because there's an amount which is usually $10,000. If the amount is $10,000 or more, that they've got to have wired funds instead of a cashier's check. But here's why it's still important for the first-time buyer. If the owner of the property who you are buying, if they're buying another property, it's important that one of two things happens. Either one, you close with the same title company so that as soon as you finalize the purchase of their property and they finalize the sale of the home that you just bought, they need to be able to do the closing on the property they're about to buy, their new home or their replacement property. And most people like to close both deals back to back, like one at 9 o'clock in the morning on the sale. So you buy their house at 9, and then they would, when you were done doing the purchase, then they're going to go ahead and stay and do the closing of the house they're buying. So that's normally how it's done. Now, if you're using the same title company, that is super, super easy, because as soon as the sale finalizes on their current house, the title company who did that closing has the funds available for them to do the purchase of the new property. They're using the monies usually from the sale of their property to put that down on their replacement property. So super, super easy. Where it gets tricky is if the seller wanted to use a specific title company to do the closing, the sale of their current property, but the house they're buying, the owner of that property, had a relationship with a different title company or a different law firm, and they wanted to use that separate title company. So two different title companies involved. Well, the trick is, if you're trying to do the sale of their property at 9 and then the purchase of the new property at 10, there's no time to get a wire transfer done, because they need to sell their house first to get the money in order to get that money to that second title company. So it's super easy if you use the same title company, no issue. Where it gets tricky is if you're trying to do piggyback or back-to-back closings, the sale of your current house and then purchase the next one, and you're using two title companies. And the reason that's tricky is there's not enough time for you to get that wire transfer. And in most cases, when you're buying your next home, you want, as soon as it closes, you'd like to have the keys to the property. Well, if your wire transfer hasn't hit, the seller's probably not comfortable handing you the keys to the home and say, go ahead and move in, when they don't have their money. Their deal is not finalized. So, and of course, if they're trying to buy another property, sometimes we'll get 2 and 3 and 4 deals all lined up one after another, like a series of dominoes, where they sell the house first. Then when they sell it, they're buying the second house. And as soon as they do that, then the owner of the house they just bought is now buying another property. So it becomes really, really tricky. So if you're not using the same title company, my recommendation is do not try to do back-to-back closings with two different title companies, one at 9 and one at 10. Do the 9 o'clock sale, but then set up the purchase for like 2 in the afternoon, so that there's adequate time for the first title company to wire funds to the second title company who's doing the closing. Is we need to confirm that the money from the first title company hit the account for the second before they're going to be able to do the full disbursement. So I know this may be a little confusing for some of you, especially if you're used to using cashier's checks, But this is one of the changes that's taken place. So timing on these real estate deals is super, super important. And that's something we're real good at. So if you have questions, feel free to give us a call. I'm Sam Miller, RE/MAX Stars Realty, 740-397-7800. Hope you're having a good one. Thanks and bye.